Today I'll be working in my workbook called Opening a Window into the Psalms, which covers Psalms 1 through 21. I normally am only going to go through these extra pages on the first Psalm of each book, but I will stop a moment for you to see them just in case you came into Psalm 3 only. This is a general study on Psalms. Separating the Psalms into groups. They can be separated into groups. They are naturally separated into 5 books. And there's a musical nature. These titles here have to do with this book, but there will be other titles in my other books that are referenced in the Psalms. The poetic features of the Psalms, which I get into a lot. These are some of them that deal in this book. I don't deal with every single one of them, but these are ones that are often used in this book. Now, table of contents. We have done Psalm 1, we've done Psalm 2. We are now going to work on Psalm 3. The Lord helps his troubled people. Let's read the Psalm first. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. Shelah. We'll talk about that. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. Shelah. I lie down and sleep, and I wake again because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessings be on your people. Shelah. And notices a Psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. Okay, so just like all the other Psalms, the first thing I do is go over some of the comments that other commentators have made on these Psalms. As I've mentioned, each time I've done a Psalm, you could pick up every commentator. If you pick up 20 commentators, and each one of them will identify the Psalm differently. They are that diverse. So what I've done is pick up a couple of them for comments and a couple of them as far as the when the time that the Psalm was written. And I use those as an example, not as the end all, but the example. So we know it's part of the first book of Psalms. Psalms 1 through 31 is the book 1 of Psalms. According to the NIV Study Bible, Psalm 3 is grouped in Psalms 3 through 14. So they've made smaller groups then, which is composed of 12 prayers divided into 2 groups of 5, with the 6th, 8, and 14 that characterize the human condition. In the case of Psalm 3, it's a plea of deliverance from foes. Now, according to Jameson, Fawcett, and Brown, Psalm 3 is considered a devotional psalm, and that the author, David, is trusting God during times of trouble. The Nelson Study Bible states that it's a personal lament. So now, historically, there's no question as to when this psalm was written, as David tells us. It is when David is fleeing from Absalom, his son. This happens in 2 Samuel 15:14 and 10:23 BC. Absalom started a rebellion in Israel and attempted to overthrow his father and take the throne. David flees to Mahanaim. Although there is only one theme, the salvation of God in the midst of enemies, there are 3 sections to this prayer. The first is stating 3 problems, verses 1 and 2. The second section tells of the Lord as David's shield, verses 3 through 6. And the last section is an urgent prayer for God to act, verses 7. The conclusion of the prayer is verse 8. So let's look here real quick. 1 and 2 is 3 problems. The second section talks of the Lord is our shield, 3 through 6. The last section is the urgent prayer for God to act, verse 7. And then 8 is the conclusion. Okay? So let's start with the questions. Let's consider the first section, which is stating the three problems, verses 1 through 2. In verse 1, what is David's cry to God? He's crying out that how many are his foes and how many rise up against him. Okay. And since we know when this happened, let's look. 2 Samuel 15, 13 through 14. A messenger came and told David, the hearts of the people of Israel are with Absalom. And then David said to all his officials who were with him in Jerusalem, come, we must flee, or none of us will escape from Absalom. We must leave immediately, or he'll move quickly to overtake us and bring ruin on us and put the city to the sword. Okay. Okay. So question 2. Therefore, based on 2 Samuel above, it isn't just Absalom, his son, that is against him, but who? According to 2 Samuel 15, it's not just Absalom that is against him, but the people as well. Okay. So number 3, in verse 2, what does David tell us the people are saying around him? Verse 2, God will not deliver him. Okay. And this is true. 2 Samuel 16, 7 through 8 said, Shimei said, get up, get out, you murderer, you scoundrel. The Lord has repaid you for all the blood you shed in the household of Saul, in whose place you have reigned. The Lord has given the kingdom into the hands of your son Absalom. You have come to ruin because you are a murderer. Okay. Notice there's a word repeated several times in verses 1 and 2. What is it? Okay. The word, let's see. It's many. Many foes, many rise up, many are saying of me. So that's been repeated. This poetic form is aptly called repetition. David also uses a phrase that's synonymous with the word many in verse 6, which is tens of thousands. There is also another word that shows up in verse 2 that's also in verse 7 and 8. What is it? Okay, verses 2, verses 7 and 8. Deliver, deliverance. So it's deliverance. In all cases, we see that deliverance or salvation only comes from the Lord. So to be specific, what are the three problems listed in verses 1 and 2? How many are foes, how they rise up against me, and many will say God won't deliver them. What word is at the end of verse 2, 4, and 8? Shelah, Shelah. The word Shelah, or Selah, shows up in 39 Psalms and also in the book of Habakkuk. The meaning has been lost through time, but commentators believe it means either a musical or literal pause. Sometimes you see it as a change of thought, but sometimes it's just a pause in the music, for instance. Okay, now to the second section, which is the Lord is David's shield, verses 3 through 6. Okay. In verse 3, David lists 3 shields the Lord gives him. What are they? Verse 3, my glory, you are the shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts my head high. If the Lord is David's shield, what does David mean by this? That the Lord will protect him. Several Psalms talk of this shield. These are a few examples. The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in him and he helps me. Psalm 33:20. We wait in hope for the Lord. He is our help and our shield. Psalm 84:11. For the Lord God is a sun and a shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he do. Does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless. So now verse 4 starts off with, I will call out to the Lord. Looking at the word Lord in this psalm, you see a progression. First, here in verse 4, you see David praying or calling out to the Lord. Then verse 7, his prayer is more immediate and urgent. And finally, in verse 8, you see the Lord delivering on the prayer. So, cry out to the Lord, arise, Lord, and may the Lord provide deliverance. Verse 4 ends with, He answers me from His holy mountain. From Psalm 2, we know this holy mountain is also called Zion. Okay, so verses 4 through 6 show peace that David got from crying out to the Lord. Let's see. What do you mean by that? 4 through 6. Okay. Just make sure we've got it. Okay. Even though his situation was dire. In verse 4, when David cried out to the Lord, what did the Lord do? He answered him from his holy mountain. In verse 5, who is protecting David when he sleeps? The Lord sustains him. And in verse 6, because of his faith in the Lord, what does he no longer have? Fear. Romans 8:31, if God is for us, who can be against us? Now for the third section, which is an urgent prayer to God to act. Verse 7. But David doesn't just want David's shield, he wants God's sword. In verse 7, he asks for God to take action in 3 ways. They are, deliver me, my God, strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. Interestingly, many versions of 5 and 7 change the tense. Instead of lying down and sleeping and then waking the next morning because God sustains me, other versions say, I laid down and slept, and I woke because God sustained me. Also, instead of asking God to strike all my enemies on the jaw and break their teeth, the other translations say, you have struck all my enemies on the jaw, you have broken the teeth. So instead of asking for help, David is doing what in these versions? He is saying what has already happened. How does the past tense of these 2 verses change the message of the psalm? Past tense means it's already happened and he's talking about it. Present tense means it's happening right now and he's calling out to God for it. Verse 8 is the conclusion of the psalm. What does it say? From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. Instead of just himself, who is David thinking of in verse 8? His people, not just himself. Now, how the psalm lives on. Psalm 3 is not quoted elsewhere in the Bible. Psalm 3 is read as part of the daily morning or evening prayers in some Jewish and Christian traditions, particularly during times of personal communal distress or as a reflection on the theme of God's protection and deliverance. So that's the end of Psalm 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.